Hello, YouTube. I know what you're thinking. Well, what in the hell is that? I'll get to that in a minute. I just finished up some shop work. I do a lot of mountain man, primitive, early American style pieces. I did it's kind of a fighter. It's got a little bit of file work on the back. It's a brute de forge, three-piece antler handle. Kind of a teardropped guard, brass, beveled, quarter inch. I'm going to start going 3/16. Quarter inch is just a little thick for this. But I was looking through a couple of my favorite books, History of Weapons of the American Revolution, and give me just one second. Swords and Blades of the American Revolution. Now, there were a lot of arms that were made out of necessity during the Revolutionary War, as in any case it happened during the American Civil War. Anytime you need a weapon that you don't have, well, people get creative about how to produce those. And if you got a blacksmith around, that can be a positive and useful factor in trying to acquire something. Now, one piece I do have here, and these are often overlooked. This small knife is a patch knife. It can also be a little neck knife. These are just small knives. And for those of you who aren't into frontier reenactment or are into shooting muzzle loaders, things like that, patch knives were used to cut the patching that went, basically between your powder charge and your projectile, whether that's ball or shot or whatever. And these were useful little knives. Now, I don't make a lot of small knives like this because, one, they're a pain to work in with the smaller features, but I like these. I like this. This is actually just a little piece of cut off high carbon steel from one of the long sections I ordered in. It's what I had left over from a project. Actually, I think this was a cut off tang from some 9260, and it made a nice little patch knife. I'm eventually going to have to sell it, but I like doing the little pretty stuff, but with that rustic touch. I do a lot of fighters and bowies. This actually has a sharpened top edge. Just fun, bare bones, basic. Getting back to the book, Swords and Blades of the American Revolution. I have seen this knife in a couple different publications, and you can see it was made from a Sith blade, repurposed. It's got a piece of deer antler for the handle, and the interesting thing about it is it's not a hidden tang like this, but rather it's a scale tang construction like this, but with a full piece of antler here with the crown at the bottom. Which is kind of a pain in the ass. It's not easy to fit that up properly, especially with no gapping. In this case, there was gapping. Somebody took and they said, "Hey, this will work." It says it's 12 1/4 inches overall. I made something similar. Of course, I guess a blade's just about that long. Now, I used elk antler instead of whitetail because that was what was proportional to the blade itself. Now, story behind this was a long straight scythe. And I'd bought it at an auction, and I'd cut it in half. I forged one portion into a hunting sword. It sold many years ago to Kenneth. I can't remember Kenneth's name. He lives out in New York. He bought several of them off of me. But he convinced his wife that he only had one. I'll keep my anonymity on your last name, man. But anyway, I had forged this into a Bowie knife for throwing, just a clip blade for a throwing knife. And I thought about it, and I kept coming across that in a couple different books I have. And I was looking in Backwoodsman magazine, and lo and behold, they had a sketch of it. I said, okay, I'm going to make that. So I took my Bowie, and I forged it back into a Sith blade. Now, I did not make this exact, obviously not to scale, but historically inspired, because I didn't want people going, hey, he tried to make a forgery or whatever. I didn't do cross hatching on it. I just did unidirectional grooves for better grip. This is a scale tang. You see there's a little bit of gapping. The original had gapping too. That's what I was going for. That's what I achieved. Now, does this have a wider tang at the back? No, it doesn't, but the handle does widen. So you can see that this is open here a bit. This actually feels really good in the hand. Would I want to take it to war? Hell no, I've got better blades for that. But the cool thing is, if you look back through history and look at different styles of blades, what the blacksmith or the bladesmith, most times it was just a local blacksmith, what they turned out, what they created, whether it was out of necessity or just from their own creativity, it can get real interesting at times. A lot of times broken swords were repurposed into knives. Scythes and sickles were repurposed into knives and implements of war. I mean, to be totally honest, this is probably just a little over a 1/4 inch on the spine. I could have forged this out into a short sword. I mean, it's damn near there. I haven't taken measurements on this yet, but I do still have to put my maker's mark on those 3 pieces. And then probably get those up on market. I may save this one for a bit. I've got a gun show coming up, Frontier Gun and Craft Show, and it would be kind of cool to have something like this with the book out as an interpretation. Just because I've always enjoyed doing that. With all that being said, Blade is coming up first weekend, 5th, 6th, 7th of June, I want to say. I've got to check my calendar to be sure. I will be in Atlanta, Georgia with a bunch of other Forged in Fire and Master of Arms alumni. Hope to see you there. And if you get a chance, I've still got to pay for my table. I'm sure I got a spot. Prairie Lane Frontiersman, 31st Annual Historic Arms and Crafts Show, March 13th and 14th, Sullivan, Illinois. It's at the American Legion. So that's kind of, if you want to come out, I want to be there one way or another. And you want a picture, autographs free. Check out what I got, see what everybody else has got. And stay creative, keep making. Everybody, you have a great evening. I'll get back to it. And probably ought to pull that fried chicken off the stove. Later.